Several car symbolizes the culmination of the second stage of an...
In a world brimming with innovation, certain groundbreaking inventions and their creators have mysteriously faded into obscurity.
Developed the water fuel cell as a retrofit energy systems to conventional cars.
This video delves into the tales of 15 inventors whose potentially revolutionary creations were suppressed, whether by external forces or unfortunate fate. These stories not only question the nature of progress, but also highlight the delicate interplay between invention, power, and history. Number 1. The Ogle carburetor, Tom Ogle. In the 1970s, an inventor named Tom Ogle, without a formal background in mechanical engineering, claimed to have designed a carburetor that could drastically improve fuel efficiency. His invention, known as the Ogle carburetor,
and it's running through lean, so it just spits it back out of the carburetor,
was said to enable a car to travel over 100 miles on a single gallon of gasoline, a figure that far surpassed anything that conventional vehicles could achieve at the time. Ogle's innovation seemed poised to revolutionize the automotive industry and threatened the very foundations of the oil economy. Ogle's system allegedly eliminated the carburetor and fuel pump, instead drawing fuel vapor directly from the tank through a series of vacuum lines. The design was deceptively simple, but according to Ogle, it allowed for complete fuel combustion and, consequently, greatly reduced emissions alongside the improved mileage. This was at a time when fuel prices were spiking due to the oil crisis, which had left the American public desperate for an alternative that could alleviate the strain on their wallets. The story of Tom Ogle is one of tragedy and controversy. After patenting his device and garnering attention from both the media and potential investors, Ogle reportedly turned down an offer of $25 million to sell the patent rights. He insisted on making the invention available to the public to ensure that everyone could benefit from the increased fuel efficiency. However, before his vision could fully materialize, Ogle suddenly passed away under mysterious circumstances at the age of 24. Official reports attributed his death to an overdose of alcohol and prescription medication, but friends and supporters suspected foul play, given the potential financial interests at stake. Number 2. The water-powered car, Stanley Meyer. At the crossroads of genius and incredulity stood Stanley Meyer, an inventor who shocked the world with his assertion of a water-powered car. The concept was simple yet staggering, a vehicle that ran solely on water, a resource far more abundant and environmentally friendly than gasoline.
We're now using the gas processor to utilize the ambient air to ionize the gases, which is now mixing with the water.
Meyer's invention promised a future free from the shackles of fossil fuels, a dream that resonated with the eco-conscious and the economically burdened alike. His water fuel cell, he claimed, could split water into its composite elements of hydrogen and oxygen, which the engine would then burn to generate power, emitting only water vapor as exhaust. Meyer's invention was met with skepticism from the outset. Critics argued that his claims defied fundamental principles of chemistry and physics, specifically the law of conservation of energy. However, Meyer was undeterred. He took his invention on a media blitz, demonstrating his technology with a dune buggy he claimed was powered entirely by his water fuel cell. In a world where oil prices were climbing and environmental degradation was becoming an ever-increasing concern, Meyer's invention seemed like a beacon of hope. His patent described a process that involved a water splitter, which, powered by electricity, separated the water molecules into their constituent parts. This process, known as electrolysis, is well understood, but Meyer's device claimed to accomplish it with an efficiency that was unheard of. If true, it would have been a monumental breakthrough. Number 3. Rife machine, Royal Raymond Rife. In the realm of medical marvels, few have sparked as much debate as the Rife machine, attributed to Royal Raymond Rife. An American inventor and early exponent of bioelectric medicine, Rife claimed to have developed a device capable of destroying pathogens, including cancer cells, by vibrating them at their resonant frequency. His machine was said to emit energy at specific frequencies that would resonate with the unique frequencies of pathogens, causing their destruction without damaging surrounding healthy tissue.
I've often thought that living matter might be based on crystals of some kind.
Born in 1888, Rife was a scientist intrigued by the possibilities of treating diseases with frequencies. He designed a series of microscopes that he claimed were powerful enough to visualize viruses, a feat that was not possible with the technology of the day. Rife then purportedly isolated a cancer virus and proceeded to treat it using his frequency device. By the 1930s, Rife was claiming remarkable success rates, suggesting that his machine had the potential to cure cancer and other diseases. Rife's claims attracted the attention of the medical community and the public, with some hailing his device as a breakthrough and others dismissing it as pseudoscience. Despite initial interest and some apparent successes, Rife's work was eventually discredited by the medical establishment. Critics pointed to a lack of rigorous scientific evidence and the implausibility of his theories based on the known laws of physics and biology. The discrediting of Rife's work led to a personal and professional decline. By the 1950s, his laboratory had been destroyed in a fire, his records and machines were lost, and he became a recluse until his death in 1971. Number 4. Tucker Automobile. Preston Tucker. The story of Preston Tucker and his Tucker 48 automobile embodies the American dream clashing with industrial giants. A visionary in automotive design, Tucker sought to challenge the big three automakers with his advanced and innovative car. The Tucker 48, also known as the Tucker Torpedo, boasted safety and mechanical features far ahead of its time, including a directional third headlight, a padded dashboard, and a rear-mounted engine. Preston Tucker's vision was to produce a vehicle that not only set new standards in automotive design, but also ensured greater passenger safety during a period when road fatalities were rising. His designs were revolutionary. The Tucker 48 featured a safety chamber for front passengers to dive into before a collision, a windshield that would pop out upon impact to avoid glass shattering on passengers, and seat belts.
Which also makes it safer because it doesn't roll over nearly as easy, unless, of course, you're doing 95 miles an hour on a racetrack.
A safety feature that wouldn't become standard until years later. Despite the ingenuity behind the Tucker 48, Tucker faced immense challenges in bringing his car to market. Financial difficulties were a constant hurdle, exacerbated by negative media coverage and legal battles. In 1949, the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission indicted Tucker and his board of directors on charges of mail fraud, conspiracy, and stock fraud. Although acquitted, the damage was done. Tucker's company was forced into bankruptcy, and only 51 cars were ever produced. The demise of the Tucker Corporation is often seen as the result of an overly ambitious entrepreneur running afoul of established industry practices and government regulations. Critics, however, suggest a more sinister reason: sabotage by a fearful automotive industry and a government unwilling to challenge the status quo. Number 5. Cloudbuster. Wilhelm Reich. Wilhelm Reich, a name synonymous with controversy in the psychoanalytic and scientific communities, ventured beyond the realm of psychology into the atmospheric with his invention of the Cloudbuster. This device, which seemed to be torn from the pages of science fiction, was designed by Reich in the 1950s to manipulate what he called orgone energy, a life force that he believed could affect both human health and weather patterns. The Cloudbuster, comprised of a set of hollow tubes connected to cables that were immersed in water, was intended to draw orgone energy from the atmosphere, with the goal of inducing rain. Reich, originally part of Sigmund Freud's circle, had taken a divergent path into the study of this orgone energy, which he posited was a physical manifestation of the libido. In his view, this energy was omnipresent and could supposedly be harnessed for a variety of purposes, from combating illnesses like cancer to altering weather conditions. The Cloudbuster was his attempt to apply his theories practically by engaging with the Earth's atmosphere directly. Despite the skepticism of the scientific community, Reich conducted several experiments with the Cloudbuster, claiming success in inducing precipitation in areas plagued by drought. His claims drew the attention of farmers and even some in the government. However, Reich's work with the Cloudbuster also attracted the scrutiny of the Food and Drug Administration, which had long been skeptical of his work with orgone energy. The FDA's investigation culminated in a court order demanding the destruction of Reich's publications and equipment related to orgone energy. Reich was also sentenced to 2 years in prison for contempt of court, as he had violated the injunction against his work. He died in jail, and his cloudbuster, along with his other inventions, fell into obscurity, dismissed by mainstream science as the fanciful musings of a pseudoscientist. Number 6. Cold fusion. Martin Fleischmann and Stanley Pons. The pursuit of cold fusion was brought to the world stage by Martin Fleischmann and Stanley Pons in 1989, promising a clean, virtually limitless source of energy. The two chemists claim to have achieved a nuclear reaction at room temperature.
This is the latest version. It's been running for about 4 days. It has the advantage of condensing, collecting the liquid, and returning it to the bottom so we don't lose it by boiling and evaporation.
A feat that, if proven, would have upended our understanding of physics and transformed the energy landscape. Traditional nuclear fusion, the process that powers the sun, requires immense temperatures and pressures to force atoms together, releasing energy. Cold fusion, by contrast, would occur without such extreme conditions, a tantalizing prospect that drew immediate attention and hope. Fleischmann and Pons conducted their groundbreaking experiments at the University of Utah, where they electrolyzed heavy water with a palladium electrode and reported an excess heat production they could only attribute to a nuclear process. The announcement was sensational. It suggested a future where energy would be both cheap and clean, solving a myriad of environmental and geopolitical problems. However, the scientific community's initial excitement soon turned to skepticism. Other researchers struggled to replicate Fleischmann and Pons's results, a cornerstone of the scientific process. Questions were raised about their methodology and the validity of their findings. The term cold fusion quickly became synonymous with flawed science, and the overwhelming tide of criticism led both to retreat from the limelight. Fleischmann and Pons's work was largely discredited, leaving their reputations tarnished. The scientific establishment concluded that their findings were the result of bad science, not bad faith. And cold fusion research was pushed to the fringes, sustained by a small but determined community of scientists who believed the core concept deserved further exploration. Number 7. The electric car. Various inventors. The electric car, an invention with roots stretching back to the 19th century, has undergone cycles of prominence and obscurity, often pushed aside just as it seemed poised to become mainstream. In the early 1900s, electric vehicles, or EVs, were not an uncommon sight on the streets, prized for their quiet operation and lack of noxious fumes, in stark contrast to their gasoline-powered counterparts. However, as the century progressed, the electric car was overshadowed by the internal combustion engine, with its ability to provide longer range and quicker refueling. Despite its early promise, the electric car faced numerous setbacks. Innovators and manufacturers who saw the potential for an automobile powered by electricity were frequently undercut by the established oil industry and auto manufacturers invested in the status quo. The narrative of the electric car is peppered with stories of sudden discontinuations and unexplained withdrawals from the market, fueling speculation about the forces at play behind the scenes. One of the most notable examples of this pattern occurred in the late 20th century with the rise and fall of the General Motors EV1. Hailed as a significant advancement in electric vehicle technology, the EV1 was made available through leases in select markets. But despite positive consumer feedback and a growing cult following, GM abruptly ceased production, citing insufficient demand, and went so far as to recall and destroy the majority of the existing vehicles, leading to public outcry and suspicion. Number 8. The Aerowagon. Valerian Abakovsky. Valerian Abakovsky's Aerowagon was a bold foray into the world of high-speed rail travel, a unique and ultimately ill-fated invention of the early 20th century. Conceived as a propeller-driven rail car, the Aerowagon was designed to transport Soviet officials rapidly between Moscow and Tula.
The train you were making up for that colonel. He's stealing a load of pictures. You should hear what they're worth.
Abakovsky, a youthful inventor only 25 years of age, envisioned a future where travel times were significantly reduced by the application of aeronautical principles to railway technology. The Aerowagon, with its sleek design and aviation-inspired propulsion, was a marvel of its time. It was powered by an aircraft engine and propeller, enabling it to achieve speeds that far exceeded those of traditional steam locomotives. The test runs were a testament to Abakovsky's vision as the aero wagon hurtled along the tracks, cutting through the Russian landscape with unprecedented velocity. Despite the promise shown in its initial tests, the aero wagon's fate was sealed by a tragic accident on its return journey from Tula in 1921. The high-speed railcar derailed, resulting in the deaths of everyone on board, including Abakovsky. The accident cast a long shadow over the concept of propeller-driven trains, and the aero wagon itself became a symbol of hubris and the perils of overreaching technological ambition. In the wake of the disaster, the aero wagon was relegated to a historical footnote, a curious episode of early Soviet innovation that ended in catastrophe. The tragedy effectively silenced further exploration into similar technologies for decades, as safety concerns took precedence over the desire for speed. Number 9. Anti-gravity device. Thomas Townsend Brown. Thomas Townsend. Brown's foray into the world of unconventional propulsion systems began in the early 20th century, leading to his pursuit of an elusive technological holy grail, anti-gravity. Brown's experiments centered around what he termed electrogravitics, a concept suggesting that strong electric fields could affect the gravitational pull on a mass. His invention, often referred to as the Biefeld-Brown effect, hinged on the idea that charged capacitors, when suspended in a vacuum, showed a small but measurable thrust in the direction of the positive pole. Brown's work in this field resulted in the development of devices that he claimed were capable of producing this anti-gravity effect. Among them was a saucer-shaped object known as a gravitator, which purportedly levitated when subjected to high-voltage electric charges. The implications of such a discovery were profound, promising a revolution in aerospace technology with the potential for vehicles that could hover and fly without the need for wings or propellers, powered purely by electrical energy. Despite the initial excitement surrounding Brown's claims, his work was met with skepticism by the scientific community. Critics argued that the forces he observed were simply ion wind, a well-understood phenomenon where ions are transferred from one electrode to another, creating thrust. This effect was known to be far too weak to account for the kind of propulsion necessary for anti-gravity flight. Undeterred, Brown continued his research, often in secret, with the support of private investors and military interest. Throughout the 1950s and 60s, he sought to refine his technology and demonstrate its viability. However, conclusive, publicly acknowledged evidence of a functioning anti-gravity device never materialized. The mystery surrounding Brown's research deepened after his death. His experiments on electrogravitics had become the stuff of legend within certain circles, inspiring conspiracy theories and tales of government cover-ups. To this day, the idea of anti-gravity remains a staple of science fiction, and Brown's work is often cited by proponents of alternative propulsion systems. Number 10. The Avrocar, John Frost. The Avrocar, designed by engineer John Frost of Avro, Canada, was an ambitious venture into the realm of vertical takeoff and landing, VTOL, aircraft. During the 1950s, at the height of the Cold War, the concept of a flying, saucer-shaped vehicle captured the imaginations of both military strategists and the public.
Produced by Avro Aircraft Limited at Malton, Ontario, the Avrocar symbolizes the culmination.
The Avrocar was intended to be a part of the U.S. military's arsenal, a testament to Frost's innovative approach to aeronautics, which sought to combine the hovering capability of a helicopter with the speed of a jet. The Avrocar utilized a turbine engine to create a cushion of air upon which it would ride, a principle known as ground effect. The saucer was designed to draw in air from the top and expel it below, creating lift and thrust. The initial vision for the Avrocar was a craft capable of high speeds and altitudes, but the reality was a vehicle that struggled with stability and control issues, never achieving more than a few feet of altitude. Despite the significant investment and numerous test flights, the Avrocar could not overcome the inherent technical challenges it faced. The project was eventually deemed a failure, with the prototypes relegated to museum pieces and the dream of a military flying saucer abandoned. However, the Avrocar project contributed to the understanding of VTOL technologies and left a legacy in the annals of experimental aircraft design. Number 11. The Harmonic Code. Edward Leedskalnin. Edward Leedskalnin's story is as mysterious as the Coral Castle, the monumental structure he built single-handedly in Florida. His Harmonic Code, which he claimed to be the secret knowledge of the ancient builders, was credited with enabling him to single-handedly carve, move, and set massive coral blocks weighing several tons each.
And make it easy for him to lift these rocks. The heaviest rock here weighs 30 tons.
Leedskalnin, a Latvian immigrant, was a self-taught engineer who worked on his castle, which he called Rockgate Park, from 1923 until his death in 1951. Leedskalnin's understanding of magnetism and its relationship to the Earth's magnetic field was the cornerstone of his harmonic code. He wrote several pamphlets on the topic, espousing his belief that all matter consisted of individual magnets and that this inherent magnetism could be harnessed to achieve seemingly impossible feats. His writings, cryptic and full of riddles, suggested that he had rediscovered ancient wisdom that could manipulate magnetic forces. The physical testament to Leedskalnin's work, Coral Castle, with its massive gates and stone furniture, stands as a tribute to his enigmatic methods. Visitors to the site are often bewildered by the accomplishment, given Leedskalnin's slight frame and lack of modern machinery. Skeptics and scientists attribute the construction to the clever use of leverage and basic engineering principles, but those who subscribe to Leedskalnin's theories insist there is more to the story. The harmonic code remains a topic of speculation and intrigue, with Leedskalnin's methods and knowledge dying with him. His legacy is a testament to the power of curiosity and the enduring human fascination with ancient knowledge and the secrets of construction that continue to elude modern understanding. Number 12. The Chronovisor. Father Pellegrino Ernetti. The chronovisor was a purported time-viewing device that emerged from the shadows of the Vatican's scientific enclaves. Father Pellegrino Ernetti, a Benedictine monk, claimed to have engineered this miraculous apparatus capable of peering into the past. According to Ernetti, the chronovisor could capture and display events that had occurred decades, even centuries earlier, effectively acting as a television that could tune into history. Ernetti's narrative painted a picture of a collaborative effort involving esteemed scientists and engineers, working covertly to develop the chronovisor. The device was said to operate on the principle that every event leaves an energy mark that can be traced and visualized with the right equipment. Ernetti described complex apparatuses equipped with antennas, composed of precious alloys, and utilizing a myriad of levers, dials, and screens. The monk even claimed to have witnessed significant historical events and to have observed famous personalities of the past, offering detailed descriptions of their appearances and surroundings. Skepticism naturally arose, and when pressed for proof, Ernetti presented a photograph of Christ's crucifixion, which later turned out to be a reworked version of a known sculpture. No physical evidence of the chronovisor's existence was ever produced, and the scientific community largely dismissed Ernetti's claims as fabrications. Number 13. The Harmonic Resonance Theory. John Ernst Worrell Keely. In the late 19th century, John Ernst Worrell Keely captivated the public with his harmonic resonance theory and the associated Keely motor. Claiming to have tapped into an unknown physical force which he called etheric force, Keely asserted that his motor, which was powered by the vibrations of this ether, could revolutionize industry by providing a new, inexhaustible source of energy. Keely's demonstrations of his motor, which he conducted before eager audiences, showed a machine that appeared to operate on water alone, a premise that, if true, would have turned the scientific world upside down. Keely explained that his process involved liberating the ether through a series of vibratory-tuned mechanical processes, a method that resonated with the spiritual and scientific fascination of the era with unseen forces. Despite Keely's claims and the substantial investments he received from hopeful backers, the Keely motor never came to fruition as a viable energy source. After his death, investigations revealed a web of hidden air pressure tubes and mechanical tricks that suggested the entire operation was an elaborate hoax. Keely's work was discredited, and he was labeled as a charlatan. Nevertheless, the legacy of John Keely and his harmonic resonance theory endures as a cautionary tale about the seductive power of pseudoscience and the enduring human desire to discover new frontiers of energy and invention. His story is a complex tapestry of the age-old conflict between skepticism and belief in the pursuit of scientific advancement. Number 14. The Dynasphere, J.S. Freeman. The Dynasphere, a unique monowheel vehicle, was the brainchild of Dr. J.H. Purves, inspired by the concept of dynamic stability, as proposed by his son J.S. Freeman. This unconventional mode of transport, which featured the driver seated inside a large wheel, was envisioned to revolutionize personal transportation. The Dynasphere, powered by a petrol engine,
because we are not trusting to pushing the wheel round to get ourselves going,
was capable of beach and road driving, boasting a design that was both futuristic and outlandish for the 1930s. The appeal of the Dynasphere was in its simplicity and its promise of an exhilarating driving experience. Purves claimed that the vehicle could reach speeds up to 30 miles per hour and that its gyroscopic nature would ensure stability. However, practical applications of the Dynasphere were limited by inherent design flaws. The vehicle was difficult to control and prone to tipping over when turning. Despite these challenges, Purves and Freeman continued to develop several models, including versions for 1 and 2 passengers. The public demonstrations of the Dynasphere garnered widespread attention, featured in newsreels and drawing crowds eager to witness the peculiar spectacle of the wheeling vehicle. Nevertheless, the novelty of the Dynasphere could not overcome its impracticalities, and it failed to attract serious commercial interest. Eventually, the Dynasphere was relegated to the sidelines of vehicular innovation, remembered more for its distinctive design than its utility. Number 15. The Cure for Cancer, Various Claimants. The quest for a cure for cancer has been fraught with both genuine scientific endeavor and controversial claims.
We would call that a tumor. Specifically, cancer is a malignant tumor.
Over the years, various individuals and researchers have come forward with claims of definitive cures for cancer, often citing natural remedies, unconventional treatments, or breakthrough drugs. These claimants have ranged from medical professionals to alternative health practitioners, all asserting to have found the elusive solution to one of humanity's most persistent adversaries. One such claimant was Harry Hoxsey, a former coal miner who in the 1920s popularized a herbal remedy allegedly handed down by his great-grandfather. The Hoxsey therapy, as it came to be known, comprised an external salve and an internal tonic of herbs. Despite the lack of scientific validation, the Hoxsey therapy attracted thousands of patients to his clinics across the United States. The medical establishment, however, condemned his treatments, leading to legal battles and the eventual closure of his clinics. Another notable figure was Gaston Naessens, a French-born researcher who, in the 1960s, developed a compound he called 714X. Naessens claimed that this substance, derived from camphor, could improve the immune system's ability to fight cancer. The scientific community was skeptical, and Naessens faced charges of illegal medical practice.